everybody, this is James.
Marco.
Nabil.
And Mikey.
And this is Movie Pals podcast number 158. Today we are continuing our topic of the week where we go over movies that scared us when we were kids, kind of, followed by a main review of the new horror film in the Conjuring universe, The Nun II. So without further ado, let's get into our topic of the week.
It's the topic of the week.
So last week we did Nabil's bullshit movie Starship Troopers as a movie that scared us.
I'm glad everybody realizes this is an unbiased review of what children's films scared us as kids. So you all know.
Dude, you butchered that, but I love it. He said, it sounds like movies. I don't know. There's too many syllables in this fucking title. Anyway, so we moved on, and Marco chose the film for this week, which was Creepshow 2.
5 years ago, Stephen King and George Romero, two masters of the macabre, created their hallmark of horror, Creepshow. Many would argue that nothing of significance has happened since. Until now. Maybe you don't get out much.
Oh, this is crazy. This is totally crazy.
Maybe you're always running late.
I gotta go.
Or maybe you just have other things on your mind.
They gotta make me a movie star.
But if you only make it to one scary film all year, make it one you remember all year long. Creepshow 2.
So Creepshow 2 has a whopping, as you would say, 29% on Rotten Tomatoes. Three macabre tales from the latest issue of a boy's favorite comic book dealing with a vengeful wooden Native American, a monstrous blob in the lake, and an undying hitchhiker. Directed by Michael Gornick. This is written by George A. Romero, based on stories by Stephen King. This was released on May 1st, 1987, with a budget of $3.5 million, and it took in $14 million at the box office, but it still was considered somewhat of a failure. This stars Dominic John as Billy, Tom Savini as the Creep, George Kennedy as Ray Spruce, Dorothy Lamour as Martha Spruce, Holt McCallany as Sam Sam Whitemoon, Paul Satterfield as Deke, Jeremy Green as Laverne, Daniel Beer as Randy, Paige Hanna as Rachel, Louis Childs as Annie Lansing, and Tom Wright as the Hitchhiker. So, Marco, you can hold back just like we did with Nabil last week. Before we start with you, Marco, Mikey, and I got to say Nabil actually this time because Nabil's here and me. Do you guys have any experience with Creepshow or Creepshow 2, the sequel that we watched, obviously? Nabil?
I'd heard of Creepshow. I feel like I've seen bits and pieces of Creepshow 1. And I don't believe I've actually ever seen, from watching this film, I've never really seen any other segments of it. But I think this was this reminded me a lot of the Tales from the Crypt, which I watched a lot. And that's kind of where a lot of the reminders came from that. But no,
definitely.
I didn't really watch too much of this as a kid.
What about you, Mikey?
Kind of the same. I have heard of these movies. I have never seen the second one, the one we watched this time here. And Creepshow 1, I think I've seen it, but it's been so long that I don't remember it. So I didn't rewatch it this time too. I just was running into other stuff. So
it's okay, man. It's not necessary. It's an anthology kind of film. So I just saw Creepshow 1 last year, actually. So just like you guys, it's one of those things where I maybe saw some of those like little tales, you know, that they had sometimes in those, like on some channels, because I think they play them during Halloween, right? Something like that. And while I enjoyed it, some of it to a point, like there's little aspects of it that I was like, it's, you know, not every. They have 5 tales in that one at least. This one was supposed to have 5 as well. I don't know if you guys read about it, but there was a huge budget cut in this film, so issues arose, but not bad. And then this one, I'd never seen the sequel though, so I had never seen the sequel, but I had heard some people like it. It's kind of like a cult classic. So it's one of those. Even the first one kind of is, truthfully. So, so Marco, no, not Marco yet. Actually, sorry. Nabil and Mikey. Then, what did you guys think of Creepshow 2?
I'll let you go first, Mikey.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't like 2 of the 3 stories. So there's 3 stories total.
Jesus Christ.
so you know, the one of them goes on way too long. You know, the other one is really like,
you can go into full spoilers, Mikey. You don't have to be vague.
No, I'm just saying in general. Okay, so like the Hitchhiker one went on way too long. The one with the like statue that comes to life. I mean, he just like comes to life, 3 kills, done. Like I didn't think that bad. But the
Little
middle
wo-
story
it was a-
at the
it was a bit
lake
wooden, huh?
was really good. I like that one a lot.
The blob
So,
one?
yeah, the blob one. Yeah.
Yeah, probably because you're a perv, but that's fine. What about you, Nicole?
Yeah, I mean, I like the premises of these. I feel that as from a budget standpoint, it's very apparent. Obviously, they are supposed to be lower budget, anyways. But like,
Kinda,
yeah, the first segment with the wooden chief was an interesting premise, but I think with what they were doing with the graphics, and then like the tone of it, some parts of it was more violent than it should have been, and it was like weird because he was. The whole premise of Sam White Moon was that he was a nephew of the person who gave the jewels to the shop owner and was wanting to steal from them.
Do you know who Holt McCallany is?
He doesn't look familiar, but I know he's white
He's
and
not
Native
Native
American.
American. Yeah, he's in a lot of shit, dude. Yeah, just to let you know. I didn't
just thought it
realize
was,
that until I
like,
looked
weird.
it up and I was like, wait a minute.
He's the dude from Fight Club, man.
Dude from
Oh, is he?
Mindhunter too, by the way. So
Yep.
I was like,
Oh, he's from
ooh.
Mindhunter.
Yep.
And Wrath of Man was the one like recently he was in where he's a corrupt cop. So I was like, wait.
And
he was
then
a
in Fight
Native
Club, he's like,
American in this one.
in this life, his name is Robert Paulson. That was him.
So
Well, very early on. So, I mean, that segment, the blob thing has some creep factor in there. It was an interesting way of doing things. I actually enjoyed that last segment a lot, mostly from a comedy
Hitchhiker
standpoint. Yeah, the hitchhiker, because he just
coming
kept
back.
showing up. I just thought that was
Thanks
funny. It was
for
like, how are they
the
going to keep bringing him back? Yeah. So
yeah.
I feel like there should have been a little bit more production value. They should have given him a little bit more budget for this.
They
just
originally
to really
did
kind
a
of
cut
act-
during it. So
Yeah.
the
I feel like the
studio
effects needed to be a
the
little
studio.
stronger because of it. But yeah,
I will say the effects in the second film are pretty good for the blob, but I mean, once again, it's mostly, I think, especially when people are getting killed, and the effects of the makeup effects work really well.
the makeup was really good.
Like, we don't really understand what's going on with it for the most part, so it's kind of like, okay, that's cool. The animated sequences too were all supposed to be filmed live action, but they ran out of budget.
So
I
the
thought that was
animation
very
didn't bother
weird.
me though. Yeah, I actually didn't mind the animation portion. Like I've seen other movies that are like that, but
Yeah,
so that didn't really bother me. But
Very
yeah, some of the
reminiscent
stories
of
could be better.
80s esque,
very 80s. Yeah.
Hobbit looking fucking cartoons, right? But yeah, for me, I not as good as the first Creepshow, in my opinion. I think that one has some better stories overall, a better production value too. But this was okay. Like, I actually agree with Mikey though too. For the most part, I think the Blob story is the only good one out of the three. It's kind of sad, but the Hitchhiker one goes on too long. Like, I get it. Like, I get it.
It does
Fucking-
go long. Yeah.
Fucking Hitchhiker, we get it. The effects of the makeup on the Hitchhiker look great though. I gotta say, like, it
Mhm.
looked like
Yeah.
creepy, and it's kind of like that folk urban legend of like, the hitchhiker in the back of your car kind of thing, kind of. But and then the first one was weird. I wasn't really ever scared of the statue. Fucking thing looked hell like slow and shit, like what in. And then so Marco, this is your turn now, big guy. So why did this movie scare you as a kid enough for you to 70 years later to recommend it to people on a podcast?
Well, when I saw it in theaters back in '87, I'm just kidding.
I wasn't even born, by the way. Yet.
Yeah,
so, I know you and Mikey were. So
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I
came
was
out in May
4.
of '87, Nabil, so you weren't born. Quite
I wasn't born either yet.
yet. Not quite yet.
Yeah, I was 4 when this came out, but I actually saw it on HBO on the good old black box because everyone had one in the '80s. You guys pretty much called it. Which story it was that scared the shit out of me the most? It was the Blob one, dude. I had
Really?
fucking nightmares about that thing, dude. Mainly because I already have a fear of deep waters, and so I could never. For a while, I could. Yeah, I couldn't look at lakes or rivers the same, dude. I was like, I can't go any deeper than the first 5-10 feet because fuck that thing's gonna get me. And if I ever saw something floating in the water or anything, I would get out. It gave me nightmares for fucking days. Like, I'd have dreams that this thing was fucking killing me and shit. And
Oh god.
it was horrible.
Oh, no.
What made it worse was when the dude's the deke, when his leg like goes up, and I was like, oh shit. Like, it's the first time I'd ever seen a death like that where like the limb like breaks in the opposite direction. And I was like, oh, cool, I'm traumatized. And a little bit the story with the statue of the Native American kind of gave me nightmares a little bit.
I feel like that could have been scarier, actually. I don't know if you guys got that vibe from that.
I feel like
it could have been. But when you're like 5 or 6, I think it was 5 when I watched this, and that thing's moving, you never look at statues the same way either, especially ones that are like in front of buildings or shops. You're like, yeah, I'm not touching that thing. So, but primarily it was that second one, the raft is what it was called, is the one that really did it in for me the most. The hitchhiker one, not too much, though. At the time, for the 80s, and for me being like around 5 years old, that makeup did it for me, and it was kind of fucking creepy that he just kept coming back, and then at the end, like his face is all fucked up and mutilated, and he keeps saying "X for the ride, lady," and I was like, "Fuck, Mikey, stop!" No, but,
I mean, Marco's. I've literally seen him hit people like this, so I was like,
yeah, never look back.
Be the first, Nabil too. So
yeah. However, as a whole, I do gotta say this movie did not age well, man. Like there's a lot of fucking cringy shit.
Have you not seen it since a long time, Marco? Is this not something you have regularly every like Halloween or whatever?
No, I haven't seen it in a very long time. I never looked for it to be like free anywhere. I never was something that I'd be like, I'm gonna go rent or I'm gonna go buy.
Yeah.
Also, because I was still kind of afraid of that middle story, and I was like, I wonder if it's going to scare me again. And it wasn't that creepy this time around. Many years later.
Yeah, you realize it's just like, is it just garbage?
Yeah, I was like, the fuck?
Like, what is this? Pollution or something?
I was like, that looks like the creek just right around the corner. I'm just saying.
Yeah, is that the City Marsh?
Yeah, that's a creek, sir. So it didn't have the same impact. But it was very cringy. Like all three of them, I was just like, God, this is so fucking 80s. This is so like just
it is, yeah.
Like, man, they just said and did anything they wanted. Like even the raft, like had a lot of cringiness to it, man. Like those two guys were fucking douchebags. Like when I was a kid, I felt bad that they were like dying when I was a kid, and now I was like, they kind of deserve to die. So that's kind of my that's kind of my opinion looking back on it.
Yeah,
I've seen the first one too, but I don't have much memory of it.
It's not as cringy as this one, I would say, because they do have a lot more stories for you to go through. But I'd recommend a watch.
I might check it out.
It just got remastered too last year too in 4K.
That coming out in the 80s as well?
Yeah, way before it, in 1983, I think. A couple years before. Okay. 82, 83. And then there's a third one too, by the way, which I've never seen.
This
meanwhile,
millennium.
They just left part 2 in HD. That's it.
It was like 2000 something.
That's still a cleanup because Arrow Video did a thing for it too, by the way, for Creepshow 2. So if you really want to look for the best version, it did get a little special edition. But so Nabil, Mikey, I got to say then. So was it scary at all to you? This movie? Was this like? Can you put yourself in Marco's shoes? This is your time to shine, Nabil. You can get back for last week, of course.
Here we go.
We're using personal vendetta shit against people.
Give it. We're very petty on this pod.
Was this actually scary to you, Nabil? I'll start with you then. Do you understand?
I don't have a personal vendetta. I will say the first and the third mini story was not. I wouldn't have been scared of that. The second one, though, with how that blob was sucking him down and like breaking limbs and stuff, I could see that as being scary as a kid. So I'll give him that for sure. Like that one was the even looking at it now, like you guys were saying, the effects on that was really well done. So
I feel like that's where all the budget went, was that one.
I feel the same. Yeah, I think they spent a lot of money on that one.
The creature thing, I'm assuming, I don't know, was it like a tarp?
I just think that's what I was thinking. It was like a tarp
through the water. Like, we'll just pull it and it'll look like it's fucking.
I mean, I was freaked out when they were like, it came through the bottom of the raft. I was like, holy shit! I didn't expect to do that.
I won't lie, that actually
was really good
because the gaps between the wood and stuff. I was like, okay, that makes sense.
So I think that was a good way.
It's like, this is a real
good reason to be scared.
Let's go swim to the raft, guys, with the car still running. This makes no fucking sense.
Yeah, and I was like, that battery would have died by the time we got.
Oh yeah, it was still running. I was like, is that a Die Hard? What is this?
Yeah.
Mikey, what about you?
I kind of echo everything Nabil said. I mean, the first one, there wasn't enough there to scare me as a kid. Given Marco did see this when they were 5 years old, so I can kind of see all three of them giving a 5-year-old a scare. So that I could see how I could get scared of this one.
But not scary today, is what you're saying.
Oh yeah, no, definitely not scared today. I mean, I kind of touched on already here, but it's like everything looks a little off. Like the makeup's well done for back then, but like nowadays it's like okay, this is
yeah. I could see that.
Even the statue, like the wooden statue that comes alive, like I would want him to actually be like more humanoid instead of like being wood.
I thought that was gonna be more creepier. Like he was gonna like move a little bit or blink at one point. Someone would be like, "What the fuck?" I thought he was gonna kill everybody, right? But he was like avenging the people. He's like, "They treated me well."
It was all shadows too. You didn't really get to see him.
You don't
do much murder.
Well, you see him rip the dude through a wall at one point, but then it even cuts away at that point.
All right.
So you're like, okay. And he just...
I think you see a couple arrows, right, going to the dude, but...
Yeah, but you never see the dude doing it, though, because once again, I think budget reasons, they're like, we can't show the action, though. There's no way we can do this.
Yeah.
So here we go. Like, once again, we rated the bills last week. It wasn't super high, obviously. It was like one of those things, you know, where, hey, I don't know. I don't think it was that scary. But just me, Mikey, and then the bill. Let's rate Marco's scary kid level bullshit, as we like to call it, I guess. I guess we're just going to keep it. Fuck it. We're already halfway through.
There.
What would you give the scare factor, I guess, technically, for the movie now? I guess, what are we trying to look at? Like, during the time period, right, is what we're trying to say.
I would say as a kid, yeah. Would you?
Yeah, as a kid. What would you rate this movie overall? Not just the one story. You gotta still. It wasn't like The Raft. It was Creepshow 2. Mikey, start with you.
Well, I gave Nabil a 3, and I can't give this one lower than that, so I want to give him a 3 as well. So,
she started too high already. Okay, sure. Nabil, what about you?
I gave it a 2. I think that it was kind of weak all around, except for that middle part.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I also give it a 2. I think overall. Like, if I'm looking at scare factor, even back then, I think it was. I think the budget really kills this movie. Like, there's a potential for some pretty creepy stuff in this movie, but because they like cheapened out on it, as you can tell, like there's some shit like I don't know about this. That's all. So.
I completely agree. I think that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not that there isn't good low budget horror films, especially in the 80s. There's plenty of those, but I feel that this film was, didn't get its fair shot because it was a lower budget. You could have gotten those good story ideas, but they just needed more money to really pull off some of the effects for that.
Well, James, you said that they actually pulled the budget in the middle of filming, right? Is that what you said?
I don't know exactly the time, Mikey.
Oh, okay. Because I thought because from what it sounded like when you were telling me about it before.
They had it done pre-production because they would have already planned ahead for other things, so they can't just do it middle and start canceling shit. They had a grandioso kind of like they had 2 more stories. One of them eventually got filmed for Tales from the Crypt thing, actually. Speaking of which,
there you go.
And then the other one just disappeared. Like they were gonna have 2 more stories, which I think would have probably bounced it out a little bit more too. Because I think if you guys ever watched the first one, you'll see that like the 5, they're not all like the same length. There's some that are really short, some are a little bit longer, kind of like a Black Mirror episode, if that makes sense. Like how some are a little bit longer than others, and I think it helps that movie. So I will say it is funny that the first one has Leslie Nielsen, and this one had George Kennedy in it, which they're 2 partners in Naked Gun. So I was like, that's
nice.
All right, so next up is Mikey. Mikey, announce the movie for us. What we are going to watch next. Apparently, you told me already that it's not a horror film. It's maybe it's similar to fucking Nabil's. Who knows? Well, what's going on with this movie?
So I think it's actually in most people's eyes probably worse than Nabil's. But the most vivid memory of mine where I got scared from a movie was when I was 4 years old, and it's a movie called Wizard of Oz.
The original Wizard of Oz?
1939 Wizard of Oz.
Oh, wow.
Yes, with Judy Garland and the whole 10. So yeah, that is the main thing that I can remember as a kid, where I got like literally couldn't sleep for days after I watched it.
Because the monkeys?
Well, that would be a spoiler for the next episode, but maybe.
Sorry, cool.
Not what I was expecting at all, Mikey.
I own this on like 4K disc, by the way. So that's
at least you get a good rendition of it to watch, James.
It's a must-own disc, in my opinion. So The Wizard of Oz for Mikey, soon to get a 1 star, will be our next review. 2 weeks, so stay tuned.
Sounds like foreshadowing here.
Anyways, let's move on to our main review now of The Nun II.
I saw a nun.
Valak is a demon who was once an angel, who was punished by God, and has returned for you. And for what you hold most dear.
What's she doing? She's standing there.
You send that thing. Back to hell.
So The Nun II, sitting at a 45% on Rotten Tomatoes. The IMDb description is 1956 France. A priest is murdered and evil is spreading. The sequel to the worldwide smash hit follows Sister Irene as she once again comes face to face with Valak, the demon nun. Directed by Michael Chavez, who also directed The Curse of La Llorona in 2019 and The Conjuring, The Devil Made Me Do It in 2021. This is written by Ian Goldberg and Richard Nang, who both wrote The Autopsy of Jane Doe, which is an excellent film, which is actually a movie we mentioned last week, actually. So even crazier. Followed by also writing Eli in 2019, which is not a good movie. Also written by Akila Cooper, who did Hellfest in 2018, Malignant in 2021, which is basically a giallo film, and Megan in 2022. This movie was released on September 8th, 2023 in theaters, and this stars Tessa Farmiga as Irene, Sister Irene, Jonas Balkett as Maurice, returning from the previous film, also known as Frenchie, Storm Reed as Deborah, the most random nun you could ever have in this movie, Anna Popplewell as Kate, and Bonnie Aarons as the nun. So, we reviewed The Nun previously, many moons ago. I didn't realize this movie came out, it's weird to say it, half a decade ago at this point, because it came out in 2018. Yeah. Which is weird to say, right? Which is kind of strange.
Yeah. I didn't realize it'd been that long.
Yeah. Well, when something's that bad, you have to lock it away, Mikey. It's one of those things where
you just purge it from your brain, right? You just forget about it.
Yeah, it was one of those movies I recall. I did rewatch it, just to let you guys know, but I also should have went back and maybe like listen to our podcast, because I'm pretty sure none of us like this movie, right? At the time, Mikey, obviously you weren't on the podcast, but Nabil, I'm pretty sure we were like, what's up with this? Because it's like,
there was just a lot of jump scares. I remember that, and I was like,
yeah, that's a lot of the Conjuring shit, though, truthfully. Yeah. Although I think the mainline titles are a little better at kind of balancing story with that, because I think they have more interesting protagonists. But The Nun, I rewatched it, and it was like a struggle to get through, even rewatching it. And I haven't seen it actually since we did that podcast, which is crazy. Like 5 years ago, like that's the last time I saw it, was in theaters, and I just didn't watch it since then because I just didn't like it, man. It's I think it's too long. I don't know if you guys recall that or not. Like it takes a long time to get to the point.
That middle part is getting up to the part where they're at the was it the seminary or wherever the
church or whatever.
The church, yeah. Like that whole sequence before they finally get into the catacombs and actually deal with the.
I think it takes 40 minutes to get to that part, man.
It takes forever to get there. I remember that was just a slog to get through.
It's one of those things too. Like,
is it actually long though, or just feel long? I think it just feels long.
I think it just feels long. Although I think it is an hour 40, isn't it? You guys could double check that for me. I'm not sure. I don't think it's just an hour and a half, is it? Because that's crazy.
Yeah, it's an hour 36.
Okay, so it's like an hour 40. But let's face it, with credits, it's probably only really an hour and a half. That's how slow that fucking movie is. And truthfully, I didn't even think that movie was that scary. By the way, the first one,
definitely not. I mean, for what the trailers trying to made it seem like it was going to be scary. You know, it's like it really didn't have anything substantial to make it scary.
So I'm pretty safe in saying like none of our opinions have really changed on the previous one, most likely, right?
Yeah, I think we were also disappointed too in watching, if I recall, because The Nun was such a pivotal thing in the Conjuring film, because it's like,
kind of, I guess,
it's like her main protagonist, like the demon that she's dealing with. The
well, we didn't really know why until this movie now,
like, right? Oh, no, well, that's true.
Bloodline. That's why she's.
And it was like when we watched the film, we're like, well, that was like okay. Like, what was that for?
It didn't really go anywhere either, actually, too.
Right,
which is kind of interesting to say because it's one of those movies that I think I don't know, like when we watched the original Nun as well, like I don't know, that we were kind of in like the middle of the huge Conjuring burst with all the Annabelle movies too, and I think rewatching it just kind of solidified my whole like I think this is the worst movie in like the Conjuring universe. The first Nun,
by far, actually, I think it's by far the worst one.
Yeah,
I rewatched it as well, and
the first Annabelle's up there too.
The first Annabelle's pretty bad too, though.
It's pretty bad, which is so weird that they shot. It's like, oh, it's kind of like it's a prequel, but there's another prequel. So. She just got creepy eyes, I guess. But let's jump into the Nun 2. What do we think about the Nun 2? Let's start with you, Mikey. What did you think of the Nun 2? And apologies, I was not able to watch it with you this time, as Mikey's normally my movie buddy now. So.
Oh yeah, no date night. Oh, man,
did you watch it by yourself?
I did. I had some people that were going to meet me there,
fucking weirdo.
They didn't show up. So yeah,
I'm sorry.
That's fine. But yeah, no, I actually like this one. I thought the plot was a little better. There was actually some stuff that I enjoyed. So yeah, I just thought they did a better job overall. There was some creepier stuff. There was a couple of different things to look at. There's not just the one, villain kind of person. So I thought the pacing was a little better in this one as well. So yeah, overall, I actually like this one.
Okay. What about you, Bill?
I like the story a little bit better in this one. It's much more bearable than the first one. There were some scary elements. I don't feel like it was really that scary, but I did enjoy the plot more in this one. It was easier, I think, also to follow because there was actually going somewhere, so not necessarily connecting with the Conjuring film, but it was at least something holistic. So I guess I enjoyed that aspect of it.
Okay. What about you, Marco?
It was okay, really. I agree with Mikey that it was a slight improvement from the first one, which I begrudgingly rewatched, by the way. And
I think it helped rewatching it, though, for this storyline. I won't say that much.
To a point, there's probably like 3 memorable scenes that I think matter in the first movie that translate into the sequel. Maybe 4. But
I just didn't remember it, to tell you the truth.
There was a lot of shit I didn't remember because I blocked that whole movie from my brain. I do remember, I think I watched it with you and was Mikey there? Yeah.
I was on vacation.
You and I saw it. I think we went to Napa to see it back in the day.
Yeah. But the sequel, it's a slight improvement. It's nothing great, really. It's okay. I think I enjoyed the characters the most about it.
Yeah, I probably said it in the last one. I think Frenchie or Maurice is like the most likable character for some reason. I don't know why that guy Where's that guy from? He's from something else, isn't he?
I don't know. He does look familiar.
He looks familiar to me. I'm like, who are you? Who are you, Maurice?
Though watching him back to back, Irene isn't that bad of a character either. She's just a bit naive sometimes.
I guess that's like the fucking. I mean, no one else matters in this movie, really. I mean, I didn't think this movie was good at all, guys. To tell you the truth, like, it's better than the first one, but that's like saying like a Teletubbies episode is better than something like. Okay, I guess. Yeah,
pretty much. Agreed.
Slightly better, I guess. Just get past the time. I knocked out twice during this movie, guys. There's fucking gaps, guys. I don't know where the fuck I woke up.
Okay, because dude, I was fighting it. I thought I was the only one. I was literally trying to hold my eyelids open in some scenes.
I literally convinced myself. I'm like, you can probably nap for 10 minutes. You'll be fine. You ain't miss shit. I was like, all right. By myself, I don't give a fuck. I look a crazy guy anyway.
I saw it by myself too.
Yeah, so I was like, whatever. Well, mine wasn't by choice. Yeah, like Irene's more of a character in this one. Like she's leading it herself because Damon Bashir's character is dead from the first movie, right? Once again, Storm Reed's character was so fucking random, though. Deborah, I don't know if you guys like.
Well, they kind of explain her a little bit, right? Like how she.
Yeah, it makes no sense. She's from Mississippi and she ended up in Italy. I'm like,
I don't know why she was really
in the 50s. There. I'm gonna tell you right now, guys.
Yeah, wouldn't happen.
No. It's not gonna happen.
Yeah,
get sent to like upstate New York or something, maybe tops. But and then like Kate, they're trying to do like a fucking
she really wasn't really there for anything either. Like
she just needed to lick her lips too the whole time. I was just like, damn, bitch, your lips are so fucking chapped. They've been chapped since fucking 2004, dude. Like, get it, fucking lick your lips. Put some chapstick on. Bothered me the whole time. I was like, dude, are you the nun? Are you going to become the nun? And I was like, wait, the nun's already fucking around. I'm like, what the fuck, man?
To just add like new characters as well and not like use them as cannon fodder too, I think is a waste because it just there's really no reason for.
I guess it's fine.
Well, but then there's no reason for them to be there really because honestly,
okay, let's hold that thought then. Let's get into the plot then because there's a lot of kind of story about belief, right? And it's like a main thing with this. And Sister Irene is talking about, it's about the faith and stuff like that, and which is fine. I get that. Like it's obviously it's a movie about I guess the whole Conjuring thing is heavily religious themes the whole time, which is fine. But I don't feel like it was the greatest in this movie. I don't know. Like you kind of hinted at like the message of the film overall, and I know Sister Deborah's character, kind of goes with that because her mom passes away. Irene's mom is dead as well, and then there's some connection with that and trying to believe and so on and so forth. What did you think about that overall?
Yeah, that's exactly what the plot is, James. You're right. It's about the message of faith and the prompt. So it's great because you've got Irene in there, and her faith was a bit shooken from what was going on, but she believes still. She's still very fortified in faith. And then you have Deborah's character, who's supposed to be kind of wavering, but she's there because she's doing for family. But to me, it's like we're not going to go. There's not too much. I'm not going to really spoil anything yet, but there's a scene at the end where she's supposed to have like found her faith, Deborah, and that she's supposed to like pray to help resolve the issue. But I didn't really feel much of there was no build up to it. There wasn't really earned. She was just kind of been there to help Irene on the way as a side thing, but wasn't really like, we didn't spend a lot of time with her. So why did that feel like she suddenly like had faith, to pray? I felt that was disconnect
because they had
I felt
like
it wasn't earned,
really.
Yeah,
truthfully.
I mean, really, like Maurice, he's there, and they're at this kind of school for girls, which at first I thought was like a Catholic school, but it seems just an all
boarding school.
Yeah, just a boarding school. So there wasn't like a lot of faith elements inside there, and I mean, Maurice himself was kind of moving on, so I don't know he didn't really gain much more perspective from the last events. He just seemed to have lived his life and was traveling across. He is, but I mean, like it as far as his character is concerned, what you can see, he just seems to continue to be a traveler. So I don't like that theme. Wasn't really resonant with him.
He's not aware he's possessed, right?
No, not until the very end.
Oh, that's creepy. Okay.
Yeah,
actually, I wish they would have focused a little more on that. To tell you the truth,
yeah, I would have. I agree. I think if we had a little bit more time with just like what he was dealing with,
he's like killing kids and shit. And I was like, whoa, that kid was just dropping shit off.
And also, they kind of didn't really show, like, they did some time jumps without telling you they did time jumps. Because, like, they show Maurice at the school, but then they show the nun killing people, and they're like, they link the two together later on. You're like, oh, wait, those were flashbacks. Like, I didn't even know they were flashbacks.
Right.
So I was like, okay, it kind of jogged it. Because later, like, they say, oh, the nun is traveling, and then they say Maurice is traveling.
Yeah.
So, but you don't put two and two together because Maurice is at the school in the beginning of the movie. And then they tell you that later on. You're like, oh, wait.
But you didn't realize
so
he was the one walking away from the church in the very first scene?
No, I know. I realize that. No, but what I'm saying is, like, they show Maurice at the school, right? And then throughout the whole movie, they're doing flashbacks of the nun killing people. And then later on in the movie, like, oh, well, he's a traveler, right? So, I mean, I knew that because I knew he was possessed from the very first one. And the scene in the trailers kind of show you, like, the upside down thing on his neck, right? So you kind of put that together, but like if you didn't know that stuff beforehand, you would, in the way the movie presents the information, you don't know their flashbacks.
Well, they're playing it as though like you watched the first movie, so it is a sequel.
Yeah,
true. But I agree with Mikey where it's just like, oh, because I thought he was just leaving the premises, going and killing people and coming back, but then I realized as they're explaining it, it's in different countries. So I was like, so those happened in the past. I'm like, this is wow. The chronological order of this is just fucking batshit. But okay.
Mm-hmm.
But that did not bother me at all. I thought it was okay.
I agree with Mikey on that, but I also agree with Nabil that the shit isn't earned with the whole thing about faith. Like, I get it, that's your message, okay, but one, it's a repetition of the first movie, which already had Irene dealing with that shit. Two,
true.
What James said, they could have focused more about Maurice dealing with himself being possessed and Irene being traumatized from those events, like not necessarily losing her faith, but at least like dealing with the trauma of that. And we didn't need these other characters at all. Like just dealing with those alone could have had a lot more weight. Could have focused a little bit more on it. Could have expanded more on these characters. And everyone else like could have just been a bunch of no names that you just use as cannon fodder to add more stakes to the movie. But instead we got this, which was a jumbled mess of a very weak message. I do agree that it was stronger in the first movie, and in this movie it just it didn't feel earned, like Nabil was trying to say, and I agree there.
Felt like a lot of like thoughts and like what would be the creepiest thing to do. And once again though, I felt like they tried to add a lot of jump scares in it. Just kind of like, once again, it's just like, kind of their MO.
The
right?
MO.
They kind of, hey, we're going to freak you out, but then really it's behind you. And I won't lie, there's a couple times I jumped, especially because I was in a Dolby Atmos theater and my seats were shaking, so, it was,
I saw that shit on normal.
There was
and by jump, you mean like they woke you up, right?
Oh, yeah. No, there's only really
from his slumber.
Yeah, no, I saw it in AMC's Dolby Cinema, whatever, because I was in LA, so went in Rome. So then I gotta say, I felt too, like overall the plot, the nun was like very like insignificant overall for like the scares. I don't know if you guys felt that either.
Yeah,
Nabil, you agree?
Yeah, I felt that she wasn't compared to, at least in comparison to the first one. She was actually underused here as far as like
I thought the same thing
driving
too.
element here. Yeah.
It was just like there's like a tale they tell about like this demon goat thing that kind of shows up. I don't know if that's part of the nun shit.
What that's about? Yeah,
never explain it fully. I'm like, all right, fuck it. I guess it's real. There's like they add some Indiana Jones shit in here where they got to find a fucking some kind of idol. I didn't catch most of that. I won't lie. That's part of the part where I probably was like, at one
that's
point,
another repetition.
Digging shit up. Okay, that's
I kind of also,
you got to go after that part that'll stop the nun. I'm like, you guys did this in the first one. It was, I mean, I don't know what other. Yeah, they had to find
when they brought up the. Okay, so why is it when they brought the blood of Jesus? I was like, no, they didn't. And I was like, did I fall asleep during that part too?
They're in the first film. That's what they have is blood of Jesus.
No, I don't recall that at all. I was just like, she about to say they never did that, and then she's like, of course you did. I was like, wait, they did do that? And I was like, wait, did I even watch the movie 3 days ago? I was like, holy fuck, I don't like.
How long
movies.
have I been in this theater?
Yeah, I looked around. I asked the girl next to me, what year is this? What year is this? Is this the third Nun film? Did I fucking time warp?
I actually like that she was used a little less in this one than the first one because I felt
the Nun II. What the fuck,
dude? But she was way too. Every fucking scene, it was just like, I get it, dude. She's there, but yeah, I mean, it's
called the Nun.
No, but I see what Marco's saying. Like, I like that they used her image.
Okay, let's do it.
No,
thank you, Mikey.
They used her image, right? I mean, like she was on the wall, but it wasn't really the wall. It was like paint. It was like paint, right? And then it was in the magazines, and like she wasn't really there. It was just the magazines.
That's a good scene, by the way.
But, like, there's some really cool like visual scenes with the nun, quote unquote, the nun, right? But it's not really the nun. So I kind of liked that they did that kind of stuff. That's what kind of made me like this movie more than the first one.
Yeah, it fucks with you subconsciously.
Yeah, and then obviously the end, there's the actual nun is there. So
yeah, that's cool. So what about like okay? So let's go back a little bit. Let's roll back a little bit here. So overall, with the, like, was there anything you guys enjoyed overall? Then, like, what was your like? Did anything particularly stand out to you then, Mikey? Like, other than visuals, did you actually like character development or where it came out? Without spoiling, obviously we'll talk more spoilers, obviously, but by the end, was it okay with how you felt with resolution of the plot itself, or did you want a little bit more out of the plot? Did you want more characters, less characters? What do you think?
I do think they could have done more, right? So I wasn't like super satisfied with the plot and the characters and what they did with them. Marco outlined a couple things that I agree with here. But that being said, they did address those things in the movie. They just did it quickly, like with a small conversation and such. So I wasn't blown away by the story they provided or the characters they provided, but I thought it was enough to just be a horror movie. So it didn't really bother me too much.
Yeah. What about you, Nabil?
Yeah, the same. I feel like it would have probably been better just to add the priest again and amp that up instead of having him kind of killed off.
Off screen, yeah. They probably can get Damien Bashir back for one.
With cholera, with an ass disease. Okay.
They're like, he shit himself to death.
Pretty much. I was like, wow. I was like, dude, he took some licks in the first movie. That's fucked
we
up,
couldn't understand
man.
half the words he was saying in the first film, so we had to get some.
Yeah.
He wasn't don't know where the known is coming from.
Jesus Christ.
But,
I have the sheets.
Definitely some character development would have been nice.
Yeah,
but I will say the thing I did like, though, even though we didn't get a lot with the nun, which I get the creep factor you guys are talking about, but I kind of agree with James on this. That she's a titular character. I want to see more of her.
No, I forgot the subtitle, which is called Sister Irene. My bad.
I mean, she was in it. But
I will say
the nun too. Sister
she is a
Irene.
nun, though, right? So you guys are assuming they're thinking of the evil nun. Maybe it's the good nun the movie's about.
I will bet you $1 million it's about the evil nun, Mikey. I'm almost 105% sure. No,
I mean, she's
you're
a nun,
crazy.
right? I mean,
Well, what
she's a
if
nun.
it's Deborah? She's edgy. She's smoking cigarettes.
I will say that I did like the visuals of the death scenes. Like there's a scene where somebody gets immolated. The ending, even where that scene is, where they're in the wine cellar, like those visuals are really well done, especially compared to the last one. Like that made the film kind of bring it up a little bit. So
There's
at least when the scares were happening,
some color in this movie.
You could actually see the scenes that took place in the fucking dark as opposed to the first movie. Where I'm like, I don't know what the fuck I'm looking at here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got more pizzazz. There's a much better visual flair in this movie, especially just that magazine scene. I know it's ruined in the trailer, but like,
no,
probably one of the better scenes.
I actually enjoyed it still. Yeah, I thought it was still really well done.
I ignored every fucking trailer, so that was a surprise to me that I really enjoyed. I agree with Mikey too, and with the bill that the visuals really are what elevated this movie just a tidbit more than the previous movie. Was just that and I know you disagree with this, but the pulling back of the nun a little bit and using different ways and different new ways to show her image to kind of creep you out, I felt was a lot better in this movie. Also, the characters like Maurice and Irene, even though like they don't get that much more development in the movie, I kind of like them when they're on screen, especially when they're together. Like they have that shared history. And
yeah, but we don't get it to the end, which is kind of like
exactly
we should have got to that point sooner, right?
Yes, that's why I wish it would have just focused more on that, because that would have been a stronger movie. It would have been even better than what I thought it was. So
they just run into each other and they're like, "Oh my god!" And they're like, "Sister," he's like, we gotta get out of here. And she's like, "Don't touch him." And then it just is like, dang, if this wasn't the last 20 minutes of the movie, that'd be kind of cool if we got a little more catch up. Like, what's your life been? I gave you these tomatoes. Right. Remember? Yep. Do you still have the tomatoes? And like they never like even address how like Sister Irene is like fucking Van Helsing in this one, where they're like, we have the church comes there like you took this guy up
that's true.
Eating his cherry tomatoes and shit, looking like the fucking scene from Return of the King. I was like, whoa, slow down, because
the main dude died of cholera. Well, actually, no, he died so that he could be in probably another King Kong versus Godzilla movie. I don't know,
probably, but the whole thing is like. It's just they don't really address that. Like, so why is Irene like not higher up in the church if she's like such a badass, right?
Bring it up. She said that she wanted
times.
Well, she said that she didn't want to. She stepped away. Remember, there was like somebody talking about how they thought she might have died or killed herself or something like that. But she kind of
she went the mysterious,
basically
fucking Lone Ranger. Like she's like
in the back.
I used to be somebody. So I mean, compared to the first one, we all kind of agree. This is like, hey, this is obviously a better movie overall. Even if it's not by much, I can admit, this is a better movie than the first one. I'd probably rewatch this one again.
By a smidge.
What were the worst scenes then? We were talking about scenes we liked. What are the worst scenes then, Mikey? Let's do that to you. Yeah, we're doing this.
Worst scenes, huh? The goat creature? I don't know. He looked
weird,
funny,
right?
He looked kind of funny to me. Like I was actually laughing
effects, by the
when
way?
he was around. I think so. Yeah,
I think it was a guy in a suit. Yeah, I think so.
I think it was.
So they shoot a lot of his scenes in shadows too. I noticed, by the way, to kind of cover up like he's probably like in a 3-piece kind of thing where it's like because he's moving around like crazy. Who knows?
Yeah, I thought that was weird though because like there's like a picture of a goat, so you kind of expect it's a goat, but then it's like a half human with long arms kind of goat, and it's like
it's like a demonic looking goat thing, right?
Yeah.
What about you, Bill? Anything not work out for you, or one that just kind of stuck out? Like, that's kind of weird.
I didn't like a lot of the scenes at the school itself. Outside of like where we got to the ending and things started ramping up because they were.
Are you talking about like when the girls are like picking on the
They're
other
like
girl?
picking on her. I was like, I don't understand this. Like the real purpose of this. We get it. Like they're teasing
assholes,
her.
Nabil.
Yeah, they're just assholes. I
They're
was like, I don't really get the point of any of this. And then even when they're in the old abandoned chapel, like that whole thing was supposed to be creepy, but I don't know. I just felt like it
was just a setup for a jump scare, in my opinion.
Yeah, it just went back to like the Nun, right? Just throwing in the jump scare, and I thought that was like too cheap for for everything else they had going on. So
that's true. I mean, whatever doesn't work. But I mean, nothing was like. I don't think anything was terrible in this movie. I'll give it that much at least.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't once like, oh my fucking god. I was just like, oh, okay. Like, I kind of expected it, if that makes sense, for the most part. So, I do want to jump into spoilers here, guys, because there's like a lot to a point afterwards that I kind of want to talk about. But let's rate it beforehand. Marco, what would you give the Nun 2?
I'd give it 1.5 stars.
Sounds about right. Mikey, what about you?
I give it 3 stars, actually. I actually liked it a little bit.
Nice. What about you, Bill?
I actually gave it 2.5 stars.
Nice. And I give it 2 stars overall. Look at that. We all have different ratings.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
Right. So if you don't want to hear a spoiler section, it goes over some stuff. I would say skip it for now. Hear our outro. But if you're sticking with us, let's get into our spoilers. Let's stop here for a moment to let you all know about Newsly. Newsly is an all-in-one audio super app for iOS and Android. It picks up the most trending articles on the web on topics you choose at any given moment and reads them to you in a natural human voice. For the first time ever, the entire web becomes listenable, all in one place. Browse articles from topics you choose and start playing. You can follow any topic as specific as you like, from sports, tech, business, science, Bitcoin, or heck, even the Kardashians. Newsly will find you the latest articles and read them to you aloud. They even have digital radio. Did we mention they also have podcasts from over 80 countries? Well, they do, and guess what? The Movie Pals podcast is there too. I started using Newsly as my default podcast player, and I can't think of ever going back. Download and use Newsly for free now from www.newsly.me or from the link in our description, and make sure to use our promo code TMPALS, that's TMPALS, to receive a 1-month free premium subscription. Newsly, stop scrolling and start listening. So, like, overall, jumping back to you then, Nabil, for spoilers here, like, it ends in the wine cellar. They seemingly defeat Valak by praying, and also, I don't actually remember what happens. What happens again, guys? They fucking she get
they turn the wine to the blood of Jesus.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's what kills her.
Yes.
They bless it.
They kill him with the booze. They kill it with the booze.
Truthfully, I'm assuming we've all seen all the Conjuring films, perhaps, but she's not really dead, right? So obviously something still happens. She shows up in Conjuring Part 2, and also, is she in The Devil Made Me Do It?
No, I think they kill her in the second one. Whatever.
She's only one of the main things. I don't think she's the main villain of Valak in that one. Overall, then, did you like how that ended, Bill?
Yeah, I think, well, as far as like vanquishing her, yeah, I liked that part of it. I liked how that kind of wrapped up that part. I think there is a bit of a cop-out because I feel like they're like leaving room for like maybe a sequel because Maurice is still alive. I would have felt like he would have probably died in this incident considering he was possessed.
I thought so too. I thought he was actually dead at the end. I was like, there's no way he's fucking alive.
I was like,
you saved me.
So I thought that was weird, and I was like, okay, so they obviously want to try to milk this for any more that they can get out of it. But I do like that interaction with him, and like killing her off, like that was fine. But that Deborah and Irene like praying together thing again, I don't feel like Deborah's
like you and Marco talked about. It's not, it's kind of just. It's kind of just thrown into the plot to be like, hey, we got to move the plot along. These characters have to change somehow by the end. Here you go, right? Basically, Marco, right? Like, here, like she's fucking praying now. Like she saw a miracle, quote unquote, happen, right? Because the only reason
she's
the only reason you even know that is
said.
that she says it literally, right? She literally says it.
She does.
But I did like the fact that Irene sort of reconnects with the memory of her mom, and that kind of helps her, with her prayer. I thought that was pretty cool of it. I like the fact that the nun died by booze. I was like, okay,
it's the blood of Jesus Christ.
That's little Alki in me just saying, hey, I liked. I'm just kidding, but it was pretty cool. However, I didn't like the fact that the bully girls didn't die. One got maimed, but I was like,
she did get stabbed.
Killed him.
I was like, Jesus Christ.
Could have killed him, because that's the one part that I didn't like about the movie either.
Children.
So. Man, Marco really wants everybody to die in these things, huh?
Yeah, I was okay with them not dying. I was like, that's fine. Probably learned a lesson. Something like that, maybe. Who knows?
Just kill
I do like the usage of holy relics, though. Like most scary movies, they kind of see like a possessed item or like a evil item of some sort. Like most of the Conjuring ones, and this is kind of the opposite.
It reminds me a lot of like 80s horror films that have like a lot of like we have to find this thing to vanquish Dracula or fucking something, like, or even classic horror films are like, like werewolves, we have to use this item and bless it.
But it's cool. It gives them a weapon to use against it rather than just be like, oh shit, we just got to keep running. It's like,
I wish we had seen more of it though. Do you guys agree? Like with how it's going off, I was like, I don't really know how these work. To tell you the truth, like, is it like a fucking talisman? Like she holds it and prays and it blows and damages her, but then the nun absorbs it though at the end, right?
That's one thing that this movie did better.
Right? So it's like, she absorbed its power supposedly. Like
that's how she got the eyes.
Because Sister Irene is a descendant of that saint. Like that's why she's connected to. Is that why her daughter eventually, who is Vera Farmiga's character, eventually will have the same like keep seeing the nun everywhere? That's my like question was like, is that why they're kind of connected because that nun took the eyes or some shit? Or am I looking way too deep into these guys?
No,
you're probably looking too deep. That makes sense though. Yeah.
Right. That's what I was thinking, because like even when she sees the nun in Conjuring 2, she's with her daughter too when she sees him, because the daughter's like, hey, I see that. Who's that lady there? And technically all the women are descendants, right? So, I was like, shit, okay. I was like, oh shit.
I'm going to take your word for it.
Just fucking write this.
Yeah, mind blown right now. Jeez. I didn't think I was going to have my mind blown this podcast.
Hold on. Wasn't this guy half asleep the whole fucking pod? Look at him now. So that mid-credit scene, we do see, the Warrens answering the phone call from one of the fathers, and it seems like this is after The Conjuring 3 from the look of it. So I don't know if you guys noticed that or not, but it seems like either they're going to implement the nun, either like the next nun movie will be in their quote-unquote present day, which I still think is like what, the 70s or 80s, something like that. Or like Conjuring 4. So it's going to be one of those two. It sounds like it's going to like maybe bring it all together kind of thing. I don't think they're going to go back to Sister Irene from the look of it. So I don't know if you guys had different thoughts on that or not.
Yeah, I think that they're going to go with a Conjuring 4 because that's the stronger series anyways, is the main line. So I can see them doing that.
They've already announced the title of the next one. So I'm like,
I feel it would be cool though to see Irene kind of have a conclusion though, because I feel like she could have just one. As much as I don't really like these movies, for her character to just have like a final finale, if like at least for this part in the history of the franchise. I don't know. It just feels like it wasn't.
I feel like they already had that. Like, I mean, Irene already like combated this demon twice, right? And she used two holy relics that basically no one else has ever used before. And so I feel like she's already kind of gone through enough to kind of say, hey, she's Van Helsing, as someone else mentioned earlier in the pod. So I don't know.
Man, I guess I want to see her run off with Maurice, okay?
I think Maurice stays with Kate from the look of it. Kind of hints at like he probably settles down. It almost hints that he's like not all there in the head too at the end. I don't know if you guys got that vibe where he's like really slow and he's just like looking at the tomatoes and he's like limping and they have to guide him.
I think it's like almost ashamed that he had the demon and he didn't realize it and he brought that upon the people at the school, right? Yeah. So
he's just coming to terms with all that shit.
But here's the thing though. If you guys remember from the Nun 1, the Warrens do find Maurice eventually, and he's talking different languages, so he's still possessed somehow. So
maybe they will have to do a Nun 3, and this might also show how she ends up having
Maurice, maybe, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because he's got to still be involved in the Conjuring mainline story.
Yeah, I could see that. It could be one of those things where maybe it's set up and it's like older Maurice, and he's like, I knew your mom or something, or grandma. I don't know. I'm pretty sure that's just her mom. So
I think it's her mom, yeah.
All right. So anything else, guys? Spoiler section you guys want to talk about? Marco and Bill, Mikey?
I think we've beaten this dead horse quite a bit.
I'm good. I can't think of anything else.
We good.
That's notable.
All right, so that's the end of the podcast. Thank you for listening. Mikey, tell them how they can reach us.
Listen and follow us on your favorite podcast service. Trust us, we're on all of them. For a quick link to our socials, visit linktree/moviepalspod. That is linktr.ee/moviepalspod. Thank you, and make sure to smash that subscribe button so you'll never miss an episode.
Make sure to also stay tuned for our next episode number 158, where we will be reviewing Mikey's terrifying pick, Wizard of Oz, and a surprise headline review that you'll have to wait to hear about on our next pod.
So until next time, this is James,
Marco,
Nabil,
and Mikey.
Have a great one.